Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a 10-0 solo showdown challenge guide, giving you guys all the best brawlers, all the best tips and whatever else. So this one, you'll be getting a unique spray if you win the challenge, and also some other prizes in between, which I'll tell you guys later on. And also you have to get 4th place or above to progress through to the next round. So before we jump into it, make sure you're using the creator code. That'd be greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, guys, so going into set number 1, we have Skull Creek. So as you can see on the screen, these are the best compositions and best builds to use. So making sure you take a note of all the best star powers, gadgets and gears to use on solo showdown. For the most part, I'll be just using damage and shield because you're pretty much going to get value out of those gears all of the time. Feel free to switch up, especially if you're using tanks, to maybe use the health gear as well, speed on a more grassier maps. Overall, you're going to feel pretty comfortable with his gears. So in terms of the best brawlers, so Cole probably has to be the best brawler inside of the game, but also within solo showdown, he's so good against so many different matchups. You've got his gadget to go against the brawlers that you can hard counter, like the throwers, or just any brawler that doesn't have a knockback feature. You can absolutely destroy once you have your super. But then there's multiple brawlers as well in the list that are literally there to counter Cole because of how dominant he is in the meta. So these are brawlers like Surge, Daryl, Fang, Buzz. You've seen these type of brawlers even more so in the meta because they just hard counter Cole so much. So Surge is one of those brawlers I always rely on when it comes down to duo showdown or inside a solo showdown when it comes to these challenges, because he can pop off absolutely with a Surge and guarantee yourself a top 4 placing. But just overall, he's just so good. Once you get your super, you're going to be able to cycle pretty easily, and he's just so scary to face with that power shield gadget, so making sure you're getting some good use out of that. So also Janet, of course, going to be pretty strong when it comes down to solo showdown. I actually use her backstage pass gadget when it comes down to showdown, just in case you're facing off against a thrower, right? It can be really obnoxious facing a thrower in a 1v1, especially on Skull Creek. So just using that gadget to launch yourself onto them, and you can pretty much like 2-3 shot them. It's pretty OP, right? So you also got the likes of Daryl. Daryl just overall a really good assassin and one of the hardest counters to call right now. This is why I advise you using him inside of this challenge. You have Max, which is pretty much the #1 brawler inside of showdown when it comes down to trophies. I'm not really too sure why. Like, Max overall is pretty decent, but there are some decent counters to Max, especially in a 1v1. But I'd say that Max is somewhat reliable. So if you're used to playing Max inside of solo showdown, just make sure you can pick her. Bonnie, of course, going to be really strong in those 1v1s, and you've also got Fang. So those are going to be the best brawlers to use on this map. Let's hop into the next one. Okay, guys, so now moving on to set number 2, we have Flying Fantasies. So with this map, you've got to be a little bit careful of those launch pads because those aggressive brawlers can really catch you off guard. So as you can see by the graphic on the screen, these are the best brawlers to use so far. So a lot of the same type of brawlers. I feel like Cole, Surge, Janet are the 3 brawlers that you can pretty much go on every single solo showdown map. So of course, if you're comfortable with those brawlers, make sure you're using them. So more so about tactics right now. So in terms of solo showdown, the way I play it, I'm not completely the best solo showdown pro. Like, I tend not to play it unless it's with my lower trophy brawlers. But just overall, how I kind of find it is just make sure you're not overextending for the kills, because a lot of times, even if you're finishing off the kill with a brawler, there's probably someone close who can probably finish you off or just chase you down. And when multiple people see that you're weak, you're often going to get pinched out a lot of the time. So that's just a generic solo showdown tip. A lot of you guys probably have a lot more experience than me, so overall I feel like my tips probably won't be too useful, but in terms of just how I play it extremely cautious. I make sure just to not really overextend. Just make sure I'm trying to pinch down the enemies, trying not to team. I don't ever team in solo showdown normally, but also just making sure that you can kind of like pinch with another person. Like, I don't know if that's technically teaming, but that's just how I do it. So in terms of the best brawlers then, so of course, you got the generic brawlers that I've already spoke about. The 3 brawlers that you can always interchange. You probably see them interchange a lot in the graphics, like Buzz, Fang, and Daryl. 3 of those brawlers all do kind of the same, all assassins, all charge in. Buzz, if you feel like you're facing off against too many throws, I'll say that Buzz is probably the better out of the 3, just because you've got a gadget that can launch yourself onto walls and be a lot more aggressive to begin with. But overall, all of them are pretty strong. You've also got Penny, who can be good against those aggro picks, which I said to be a little bit afraid of in this map in particular. So you've got the gadget to fall back on, you've also got the star power to fall back on, and just overall you can probably put your Penny turret, especially in the final circle, in some juicy positions. You also have Gale, who's just absolutely so broken against those tanky brawlers, and there's a lot of walls and a lot of You got a lot of water in the middle of as well, so you can get those stuns onto the brawlers as well. So those are going to be the best brawlers to use on this map. Let's hop into the next one. So next up, moving on to set number 3, we have Rockwall Brawl. So for this map, as you can see by the graphic on the screen, these are the best brawlers to use. So for me, my personal opinion, I have to go Surge again on this map, especially in the Carl meta, but just overall, there's probably going to be a lot of Edgars on this map in particular because it's just an Edgar kind of map. Surge going to hold counter Edgar so easily, so I just love Surge on this map. I don't know what it is, but I've always just popped off with Surge right here. I don't know if it's just because like you can jump over the walls in the middle, but just overall you can take such good advantage of just overall aggressive plays with him. So also you've got the likes of Carl, of course, going to be really strong. Probably going to see a few throws on this map in particular. Again, there's like a lot of walls around the middle, so you might face off against a couple of throws, so it's always good to have a pick that is versatile against a lot of different things. That's why Surge has that jump in case you face off against throwers. Of course, if you see a thrower, I would say just try and run away from it. Try and make sure you're not really facing off against it because it's going to be pretty hard to get your super right. So other brawlers as well, we're going to be pretty good. Edgar, I would say for me personally, I'll probably stay away from that brawler, but I know a lot of you guys like to use Edgar, especially with the Fistic of Star Power inside of Showdowns. So go ahead and use Edgar because I feel like it's going to be pretty decent, especially if you want to be really aggressive, get those power cubes, and just overall be a threat near the end of a game. Edgar can be pretty juicy to have, especially, as I said, at the beginning to get those quick fire kills. You've also got the likes of Gale, of course, going to be pretty strong just overall in Showdown just because there's just so many aggro picks right now. So being able just to pretty much hard counter them with your gadget and your star power is pretty OP. So the same type of brawlers. So with Rockwall Brawl, it's all about just finding your matchup, trying to scout the bushes because a lot of the time there's going to be just a brawler randomly in one of these bushes down the side and they're just going to peek out with like a super, like a Shelly with a super or something. That's one of the things that always annoys me about Rockwall Brawl, but overall is a pretty juicy map and just make sure you're trying to hug the walls as much as possible, especially when it gets towards the end. So that's going to be set number 3. Let's hop into set number 4. Okay, so now moving on to set number 4, we have 1000 Lakes. So with this map, I believe it's not been in the game for a little while, but I just know for sure. I know I didn't put it in the graphic like an idiot, but Eve, you can see in the gameplay, pretty strong, especially in the latter end of the game. If you get yourself in that scenario, like Eve is just so cheesy with the water, so make sure you're probably abusing that mechanic because it's definitely going to be annoying for the enemies to deal with. So in terms of other brawlers, I feel like Janet is definitely the #1 pick for me, especially testing it out. It's just so good, especially with a super. Just the ability to fly over in those awkward scenarios can be pretty good. You can pick either gadget if you're scared of those aggro brawlers, especially around the edges and especially down the bottom where there's that little grass bit. The gadget can help scout, but overall I feel like the backstage pass gadget is a little bit better just because if you want to face off against those low HP brawlers with Janet, you can easily do that with that gadget. So in terms of a picks then, so Carl, of course, going to be pretty strong. He's got his flying hook gadget to just fly himself across the lakes, so that could be pretty OP in itself. Max overall inside a solo showdown, just a pretty OP brawler, but also inside of this map because of the long ranges, right? Max can be pretty good, just overall chipping the opponents down. The gadgets can help a tank as well, so that's why Max is pretty okay. I would say Bonnie, this is one of her better solo showdown maps. I tend not to go Bonnie too much. I know she's pretty OP in the meta, but just because of her slow speed, I feel like a lot of the time you can get awkwardly pinched, and especially in 1v1s, maybe not the best. But on this map, I would say this is more of a favorable map, so if you want to use her, she's going to be pretty strong here. So Daryl going to be pretty okay, especially if you spawn near the bottom. I feel like that's where you want to be with a tank. I don't really recommend going tanks too much here, but you can definitely get your value with it, especially if you just, as I said, hiding near the bottom, hiding in the grass. Make sure you're being pretty sneaky. You might be able to get a few assassin kills. You also have the likes of Penny and Gale. I feel like just pretty solid solo showdown at brawlers overall. So for 1000 Lakes, my strategy is always, again, just forcing brawlers into a pinch and always just trying to work yourself to get towards the latter. So that's going to be set number 4. Let's hop into set number 5. Alright guys, so heading into the 5th and final set, we have Hot Maze. So this map, I believe, hasn't been in the game for such a long time. So it was pretty hard to even get a PNG of it, just the map in general, but overall this one's going to be really messy. So as you can see, it's definitely going to be thrower heaven. Throwers are going to be so dominant on this map, so I advise 100% to either go a thrower that is also good against like the aggro picks like Edgar, or making sure you have a brawler that can at least have like a wall jump ability. So again, like Janet, she's pretty good because of her super and her gadget. Also got Edgar. I'll probably recommend going, I know I put hardcore gadget in the graphic, probably recommend going the other gadget, just because you can straight away charge it up when you spawn and just throw yourself onto any thrower, and you're going to be getting the kill basically every single time. So that's why Edgar is so incredibly strong here. Daryl, just overall a pretty strong assassin, probably one of his weaker solo showdown maps, but I feel like assassins can definitely work inside of this map, especially if you're being pretty cautious, making sure you're not conceding too much damage. But it's going to be pretty hard against those throws, right? So you can see I've literally put 3 throws in the graphic as well, so I'd of course be a little bit careful if you're going a thrower. You're pretty suspect to so many brawlers, but overall, if you can find yourself in a good situation with any of the 3 throwers, probably Dynamite or Barley the better ones, because Dynamite can easily catch someone with a stun and just absolutely destroy them. Of course, you may be a little bit hard countered by the likes of Edgar and Mortis, so of course watch out, play at your own risk, but a good Dynamite can probably pop off on this map. You've also got Barley. Barley's probably a little bit of a better choice just because of his slow gadget. In case you face off against those aggro brawlers, the slowing gadget's really going to help you out there. So just overall, I would say just try and keep yourself as much out of trouble as possible. This is what I always do on hot maze. I try and just run away, try and just hide behind those little cactuses in the middle, because trust me, it's going to get pretty heated, especially towards the end, especially if you're like a thrower. So that is going to be set number 5. Alright guys, it's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed this one. So I apologize for not completely like the most hardcore solo showdown tips. As you guys know, I haven't really got too many solo showdown victories, like 1,000, considering I've been playing the game for like 5 years. That really isn't anything, but overall these are just my personal takes on the maps and like how to win them. Of course, hot maze is going to be pretty hard to win on consistently, so for me it's always just about probably staying out of trouble as much as possible, but also latching onto good opportunities, especially when people are weak. So making sure yourself you're not getting pinched, as I said multiple times before. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.